Hey, thanks for checking out Nuts and Bolts with Tone, and welcome to my channel. Today I have a 2016 5500 Ram with a 6.7 Cummins in it, and I'm going to show you how to replace the front shocks. Seems pretty simple, front shocks. Let me show you why it's not so simple. So when you see from under here, the shock sits on top of the differential, and it comes up here, and there's the top. And you wonder where this goes. How do you get to it? Well, it is about directly right down here under this battery and battery tray on both sides. So to get started with this, on the passenger side, we got to go ahead and take out the air box. You're going to go ahead and undo this clamp, undo these connectors, undo a bolt. There's a connector on the side of the lower part of the air box for the Ram active air box. You got to disconnect that, and this air box has got to come out. This battery is going to have to be taken out. So I usually take this assembly apart here. Just use some paint marker if you're not sure which one goes where, so you don't get confused in case maybe you take it apart and you have to put it back together later. And then we're going to be disconnecting the intake air solenoids right down there, the intake air heater, and we got to get this air box out. We also have to take out the wheel well. So let's get the wheel well out, get the air box out, get this battery out, and then we'll look at the battery tray. Now this side is much more difficult. This side hurts my feelings even thinking about it. It's quite difficult. So this one here, we got to go ahead and take this battery out, disconnect all these connections here. Some of these connections you might have to disconnect to give yourself room to move the wires. So definitely mark it if you're not 100% certain. Then we've got to come to this fuse box here and disconnect the power wire so we can move this fuse box, because we have to get a bunch of stuff back here disconnected and detached from the battery box so we can get it out. This side is really hard. So let's get the batteries out and let's see what it looks like. You got to pop these connectors out of this fuse box here. You got to undo these two clips here so you can lift this up. So what I do is lift this up. You're going to cut this zip tie here, cut this zip tie. You're going to pop the bottom off this housing, and that power wire is going to come out of there, and that's going to give us more room to pull this fuse box out of the way. Now if you're working on a 5500, most of the time you have a big giant, you have some sort of configuration. This has a big old giant flatbed on it, so I have all these power wires. So some of these you have to disconnect in order to pull away and get access. Okay, so you definitely want to make marks on how all this goes back together. Maybe take some pictures, draw a video, whatever. But I had all kinds of zip ties and stuff orienting all these cables in certain ways. So, because this box here, not only does it have to come up, but it has to come out. And that's what makes it so darn difficult. And then you can also see back here, oh, this one does not have an ABS pump back here. Oh, we lucked out. When the ABS pump is back here, it is really hard. The last one I did, the ABS pump sat right there, and let me tell you, that was not fun. So let's go ahead and try to undo this. We got to get the wheel wells out too. Not really going to go through on how to take those out. You got to pop this outside here off, and it's a bunch of clips and bolts. You also got to take out the air intake tube. So you just have this one hose here. Just use like a hose clamp, pliers, get that off, and stick some Silvite in there. It pops right out. And then just a 8mm or 15/16 there. And usually you can walk it like this and twist, and it'll pop loose and come off. This one came right off. So now we've got this off. So now over here, what we have left is on the passenger side. Here's the harness for the active air box that goes right there. Just got to pop all these connectors loose here, all the wires. You got to disconnect the wires that connect to this that don't stay with this. So like these two, this wire here, one of these wires goes to the alternator right here, and the other one goes to this relay. But since they're all attached, I'm going to leave them attached. So I'm just going to disconnect it here, and then move both of those wires that way, and disconnect it here. This one only has one relay, so that's good. The last one I did had two. And just detach all these and wheel well out. All right, to get this outside part off, you got some 8mm, about 4 of them that go around the perimeter. You got to take those off, and then this just pops out. And then from here, you got some bolts up in here. This one, they're all missing. So this one, pretty much what you got to do is you got to slide it out from the metal. It's under the metal, so you got to kind of slide it out and get it all the way out. Oh, and the wheel speed sensor, you got to disconnect that. It pops through here. There's a bolt right there, and a bolt right there underneath. And then you're gonna have 2 bolts here and 2 bolts there. You got to pop this hood strut off, so support your hood. Pop this off to get the battery box out. So the passenger side battery box is out. So now you can see why it's so difficult. This is the top of the shock, and that's an extender right there below it. You got 3 bolts around it. On the back side, there's a bolt, a nut, and a bracket. You got to move that. So you got to unbolt these 3 bolts, unbolt the top bolt, and unbolt it from underneath, and it slides out the top. So we got the wheel well out, and started popping all these clips for all the wiring. So from here, you gotta get this fuse box up and off of here. The problem is this fuse box has to, this battery tray has to rotate to get out. So you got to take this fuse box out. So you got to undo that, and then you got to get to the bottom, and you got to get all the connectors off underneath. So that way we can have room to maneuver this box out of here. So you got all of the harness out here. We got to get this bracket off here. So there's going to be 2 10s, a 13 right here, and a 10 here, a 10 here. This bracket's got to come out because the bracket is bolted to the tray. Because this, where the fuse box sits, is part of the battery tray right here. So you can see I've got it all unbolted and it doesn't move. So here's the bracket here. There's also a 10 down here. You got to pull the power steering to the side, and it goes right down there. So now we got the bracket out, and now the fun begins. All of that was just the beginning. Now we have to get this box out of here because the legs go underneath there. So we have to get this part out from under here. So the other issue you have right here is you have the master cylinder hard lines. I'm doing a booster anyway, so I'm going to unbolt the master, and I'm going to hope that if I pull it out and over, it'll move these hard lines. Because you can see the tray is way up under the hard lines way here, and I don't even have it clear. Like in the bottom there, it's still stuck under the fender. And you've got to fish different lines, different ways, and you got to shove battery cables in places. So this is not a fun job. You don't really want to do it unless you have to. I mean, you can see the tires there. They're cupping really bad. So that's why I'm doing it. But yeah, it's not fun. So with the master cylinder unbolted, you can push it over this way. It's on this one, it was 2 14mm nuts. If it's been changed, sometimes the nuts are different sizes. The last one I had, one was a 14, one was a 13. But anyways, the tricky part is this. You got to get it up and over this harness right here. So you got to kind of use a pry bar and pull the box that way, and then kind of push the harness under the box. And then this is kind of how it's going to come out. So you can see why this one is a pain. So here's what it looks like. Fuse box goes here. These go under the fender. This goes on top of the fender. Battery goes here, and you have in the last one I did, the ABS pump mounted right there, and it sat on this tray. So unfortunately, when you have ABS of that year, this is much harder. So now, one thing I did not have to do on this one that I said I was going to do was disconnect. I didn't have to cut these zip ties and undo this box at all. I was able to just move it out of the way because it does not have ABS. If it has ABS, then I found that I have to undo that. So here we go, and lucky for me, I'm doing a hydro boost, and it's right there. So now, let me get all set up. I'll show you how to get these shocks out. Okay, get the shock out. This is a 19 or 18. So go ahead and zap this off while everything's tight. It's easier to get this out. So I loosen this up where all I have to do is just hand spin it off. These are 15 millimeter nuts around here, and this whole thing is going to come out with the shock. And that's a little stuck right now. Oh, there's a bracket on the back there, so I got to move that and take off another nut for these lines. And then down here, right there, that's a 21 millimeter nut. There's a captured, that's a 21 millimeter bolt, and there's a captured nut on the other side. This bolt just comes out and this shock will lift up. So you can see right there, there's the line for the bolt, or the line that's on top of the nut. And take that out, and then this whole thing will come out, drop a new shock in there, start your bolt at the bottom, get everything going. Should be good to go. Now all I used for this was, got my Sunex Tools deep impact sockets. So got the 18 for the nut on top. Here's the 21 for the bolt through the bottom. And then all I used was this, a deep socket, 15 millimeter with about a 5-inch impact extension from Sunex Tools. So let me get these new ones ready to go. So on this model here, one benefit was that the ABS pump wasn't here on the battery box, but one disadvantage is that it mounts to the top of the shock, the shock bracket. So there's a bolt straight down here. It's a 13 millimeter. These are two 15 millimeter nuts. Once you undo that, you can move this out of the way to get these nuts off, to get this bracket off, to get this shock out on the driver's side. That's only if your ABS pump is not attached to the back of the battery box. This is still better. I still would rather have this design than this design, because this isn't that bad to move out of the way. So under the fuse box is color-coded stickers for all the connectors. So you don't have to write down or take a picture or mark any of the connectors and their location. It's already on the fuse box. So that is how you do shocks in a 5500 Cummins Dodge truck, anything like this, where the shocks come out the top. So it's not fun, and this one, the tires were cupping, so I had to do it. But anyways, it's gonna ride nice when I'm done. And putting the battery trays back in, I found that they go back in easier than they come out. So thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell. You get notified of all my future content, which you definitely don't want to miss. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.